snake. He's a slithery snake.
He got baptized by a streetcar.
Lighten it up a little.
Yeah. We gotta scale it when we're done too.
You scaled before we started?
No.
You're a fox body.
There are some good things about Fords, you know. The head gaskets stick down, that way you can lay the intake gasket right on it. You don't have to silicone them to the head, and they'll never fall. So that's kind of nice. And then you can pull the timing cover off without having to drop the pan down to change the camshaft. It's something you can't really do in a small block Chevy without ruining the pan gasket. It just had no rhythm before, you know, stock cam. Every once in a while when you'd fire it up in the morning, it would have a little rumble for like 10 seconds and then it would clear up. It ought to run a lot better now too. Plus, lost some weight in cylinder heads. Those iron heads are pretty heavy. Yeah.
See that, Tommy? Somebody JB welded it and put a plate over it.
Somebody has had their hands in this one.
It's not even close.
That intake doesn't act like it wants to work with those heads. Those heads have like a kick out on it at the top, and it doesn't want to set down. We may have to put the old intake back on.
Looking at it here.
Well, when you're using a crossbar plate to spray, sometimes a dual plane's not ideal, but it's not on nitrous yet, so it's not that big of a deal. Whenever I go to put it on nitrous, I'll change the intake. The camshaft isn't really good for anything above 6,200 anyway, so it's not going to kill it or anything, having a dual plane. If anything, it would just give it more low end and make it 60 a little harder. I'm wondering if it needs tightened up or what. Oh! Hi! What are you doing? Is that a school? Wow, man. Really doing something good. A real contributor to society.
We're not.
It's a nice shirt you got there. Like that? My favorite. Yeah, I asked Dad, I was like, is this even adjustable? And he's like, no, it's not adjustable at all. I'm like, oh, okay. For now, we're gonna get it running on that carburetor and then, you know, we'll switch it over if we need to.
Get a better intake for it eventually. Spark plug wires.
It's just one of those things. That intake is kind of like it's like a slanted forward deal. And I don't know if we can even fit a a 750 on there, double pumper, without, you know, spacing it up quite a bit. I wanted to use that Holley intake, but it's gonna have to wait for now.
I think it would have been popping by now. You plug the distributor back in?
Yeah.
Coil's not plugged in.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we're good. You got an exhaust leak.
Where at?
The header leak. Start it back up. It's coming out of the back of the head.
Back of the head.
Back of the head. There's a plug missing. There's a hole right there. It's shooting straight out the back of that head, out of that hole.
Really?
Stick your hand back there when I start it. Careful, it's hot.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's for sure where it's coming from. Is the other side that way?
Let's find out. Go around.
Yep. Well, good news is there's room to get to the both sides. I mean, that means we probably should have sealed up some of the bolts that went through the accessory brackets too. But I mean, those heads have plugs.
So that means we should be able
Never
to take
would
some
have thought
short.
that. You know, Ford stuff you learn every day. Something new.
Power doing.
There we go. That sounds a lot better. Get the idle a little bit lower to be money. Oh, this vacuum line was off. That's part of it. Had a vacuum leak, Kenny. He took it off when he was putting that plug in there.
It's alive.
Just gotta put water in it.
Oh yeah?
Yep.
You get it fired up?
Yep.
We only had one minor setback.
What's this?
It had a vacuum leak. I had to plug that little brake line back in.
That looks really nice. I like the valve covers.
Thank you. They barely fit on that side because
He's a snake. He's a slithery snake.
that's the idea. It fired right up. We didn't have the coil plugged in at first from where I was adjusting valves, but once we plugged it in, it fired right up.
Did you set the valves at 1/8 of a turn, or?
Yeah, so I set them at 0, and then I did like an 1/8 of a turn,
Yeah.
and then I went back through them all once I got them all done, and I had already locked them down with a poly lock, so then I just snugged them just a little more.
That's fine. They sound okay? No
Yeah.
ticking?
I don't hear any ticking.
Good.
You know why he did all this, right? Because I started saying we wanted to race him in the dark.
Oh,
So he had to do upgrades before we could be competitive with it.
right.
All in all, I think I had less than $500 in this.
That's not bad.
I was able to reuse the stock push rods.
Good.
Do you think it'll go faster than 13.0?
Yeah,
You really do.
absolutely. Maybe not with that carburetor on it, but
I don't know. We'll see. I'll drag it, put a 26 on it. It kind of depends what the 60 foot is. That's a big factor. If you can get it in like the 1.6s, 1.5s,
oh, it'll go.
it's going to be a good.
It'll go.
This thing's on a 1.5 60 foot.
Bet.
Stranger Things did.
Dude, this thing is a tin can. It's
Yeah, we're gonna
literally
weigh
a
it,
tin
too.
can.
We're going to have to weigh it. And I need to rear mount the battery like Stranger Things was too. And then get rid of this stock setup here. Because I don't want anything splashing out on the track if I launch it, you know. It can hold a lot sometimes.
Cool. Cool, cool, cool. No exhaust leaks or anything?
It did have 2 of them because Ford has these smog ports in the back of the heads.
Mm-hmm.
that we forgot to plug or didn't realize weren't plugged. And so it had 2 there, so I had to run to the hardware store and grab some plugs. They weren't necessarily the ones that Ford wants you to use, but they worked.
Let's fire it up. Let's hear it run. Let me get my screwdriver.
The idle.
Barely.
I think it might have an idle screw for the idle mixture. That's it.
God bless America. Why are all my flat screwdrivers missing? I've got 9 million Phillips screwdrivers and all my flat ones are gone. Go ahead. Much better.
Oh yeah.
Start it up. This fucking choke is a pile of shit.
I know.
Go ahead. You have the choke hooked up, the wire to it?
No.
Give me the light.
I told Kenny to unhook it. It's live.
You gotta hook that up or the choke will never turn off.
All right.
That's not how that works, bud. This wire heats the element in that housing, and then as the element gets hot, it opens the choke. If you never hook it up, the choke will never turn off. That's why we're fighting it. Go ahead and start it back up. Sounds good. There you go, you're a fox body.
That's the way they're supposed to sound.
That sounds good. You ready to take it up the road?
No way.
Yep, I got my own detailing spray.
No.
Yep, Old Man Shine.
Read us the directions.
Oh my God. Old Man Shine is specifically designed for maintaining a showroom shine and has been rumored to add 10 horsepower.
What?
That's what it says. It removes fingerprints, smudges, and surface dust from paint, chrome, glass, and plastic. Directions: wipe Old Man Shine on the surface, wipe immediately with a plush microfiber towel, and repeat this process one panel at a time. Cautions: avoid eye contact with eyes and prolonged contact with skin.
Don't drink.
Don't drink it. That's pretty much it. And don't let Jimmy Dale have any.
It's gonna need a carburetor. 1390 at 99. I think that carburetor is a big restriction. It sounds and it drives really smooth. You know, definitely sounds a lot better. 1390 at 99. Not quite. What was a 209 60-foot? It spun. I think a combination of the intake and the carburetor. But I'm gonna lean towards the carburetor. We're gonna start with the carburetor, and we'll work our way down.
Are you gonna be able to put a carburetor on it right now, or?
Maybe. We'll have to see. We're gonna have to change a few things. 898 to the 8th mile. 5.5, 0 to 60. This is how Stranger Things started. I think the first time I ever ran it, it was like 860s or 870s, but it had a better carburetor on it from the get-go. It had a double pumper. It was a Demon, but it was a little bit better. I think it was like a Demon 680 or 690 CFM. I don't even know what that is. I'll have to look that up. It might only be like a 600 CFM, but it definitely feels like it's got a lot of torque. It's got more torque than Stranger Things did, but there's no top end.
Maybe it's that dual plane.
It's either the dual plane or the carburetor. I'm gonna lean towards the carburetor. But boy, it sounds good.
Might have a lifter.
One over here.
Shut it off. Let's check for wide open. All right, put it on the floor. You got it. Fire it up, burn the fuel out. Hold the throttle open just a little. You're good. I can't believe it. It's right out of the box. I didn't even touch it. Ready?
I think that's gonna make a difference.
You think? Let's see.
So since we last filmed, you actually got that intake on. So it's got the single plane now, and it's got the right ignition box. You got the timing locked out.
Yeah, so we put an MSD on it. We put a new distributor in it, locked the timing out at 32 degrees, and honestly, this thing feels pretty close. We're gonna take it to the track one of these days, or maybe we'll just go off the draggy times and just tune to the mile an hour. But I think it's honestly pretty close with the 750 from ATM. We haven't really had to do much to it. Dad said that he might adjust the power valve, but other than that, I think the jetting is pretty close and it's very responsive. So we'll make our hit. You know, our last one, my best before changing the intake, was a 1350. Now it should be hopefully in the 12s, or at least close.
What intake
I'd
did you
really
put on
like to
it?
see 108 to 109 mile an hour in the quarter. So hopefully we can do that.
What intake did you guys end up putting on it?
We ended up putting Edelbrock Victor Jr. intake on it. Bought it at Jegs. Terry got it for me. I mean, you can wrap the tack needle to 6,000 past it, and it just keeps pulling. Like, you can just keep going to 7,000 probably if you wanted, and it doesn't run out of power. So the longer you wind it up, the better it does, it seems like. Hope you remember me driving, right? Squeaked him into third. Well, what'd it go? So it went a 1320. We started at a 14. Let's see here. We started at 1390 is what we started with at 99 before all these changes that we made. and now we're at a 1320, which I spun really hard, so that was part of why the ET was down. It would have been in the 12s, but I didn't really do a burnout, and I wasn't really trying the hook anyways, and that was my first hit since we made all them changes, so I just really wanted to see what the mile an hour was, and it picked up 5 mile an hour from where we started, so 5 mile an hour from the single plane, switching the single plane, and then like 7 mile an hour from where we started. Went 105. I'm still down about 4 or 5 mile an hour from where Stranger Things was, but we haven't touched the carburetor yet, so there's still a lot of tuning left and a lot of tweaking. I think we can get it to go 108, 109. Stranger Things went 110 at one point in really good air, almost 111. So, I mean, there's a lot left on the table just in tuning, and hopefully, you know, over the next few weeks as I get some free time, mess around with it and get it as fast as we can on motor, and then we'll put a kit on it and start spraying it.